Hello, everybody. As you all know, we're here to talk about the infinitely exciting subject of commercial applications of AI. And even though this is a particular lens on AI, it's still a very wide-ranging and deep subject that gets more and more important by the day. So I'm actually going to have all of us sort of introduce ourselves and talk about what commercial AI means in each of our worlds. And I'm actually going to kick things off. So first of all, I actually have a personal obsession with AI, to the extent that even though my name is Natalie Monbiot, people like friends and colleagues are starting to call me Natalie Monbot. So a little trend that's gaining traction. But on a more serious note, when it comes to marketing, AI is really starting to revolutionize the way that consumers and brands, and particularly brands, can engage with consumers. And we're basically AI is helping us to enter the holy grail of marketing, where we can actually have, as brands, emotional one-to-one relationships with consumers at scale. And some early experiments with AI and messaging have really started to show us the potential of what AI can do for marketing. So that's my little intro. Babak, would you like to tell us your interpretation of commercial AI?
Sure. I am the co-founder and chief scientist at Sentient Technologies. And we solve the world's toughest problems using distributed AI. And so commercial applications of AI, we think of ourselves as a product company. It's front and center of what we do. And it's may sound surprising, but not all AI companies are about commercial applications of AI. And so we do operate in e-commerce space, user experience, and as well as trading.
Okay, great. Douglas, can you tell us a little bit what you're up to?
I can. So whenever there's a close-up shot of me on TV, I'm struck by the bizarrely large head that I have. So I'm the CEO and founder of ZestFinance. We use machine learning to try and repair underwriting. Underwriting for credit in the United States and China, which are our two markets, has fundamentally not progressed since the 1970s, despite the fact that there is basically infinite data available, infinite computation, and free and infinite storage. And what we've done is applied the big data mathematics that's been built by various companies, particularly in the Valley, particularly places like Google, to try and find a way to provide fair and transparent credit to people who currently are locked into the system by the failures of FICO and current underwriting.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say, like, why is AI important now? Like, what problem are you solving for there?
40% of Americans have quite fraught interactions with their banks, and 25% of Americans have no access to traditional credit at all. Many of those 25% are perfectly good humans. They're not drug dealers, they're people with jobs. What they are is either have bad credit or no credit. The problem with that, the reason they have bad credit or no credit in part is because of the mathematics used to assign the credit score. But actually what you're trying to do is not assign a score when you're making a loan. You're trying to provide life certainty. And to provide life certainty, what you need to understand is what that person is going to do. Are they going to repay you? Do they want to repay you? Would they repay you if you can? Those are fundamental AI questions. Obviously proxied by math, but they're AI questions, and that's what we view as modern AI.
Okay, nice. So kind of it's doing a public service, AI helping to do a public service at the same time as the commercial aspect of obviously making money out of it at the end of the day.
I certainly hope so.
Nice. And Rana, would you like to address that question?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Rana el Kaliouby. I'm co-founder and chief science and strategy officer at Affectiva, and we're all about emotion AI. So our vision is to bring emotional intelligence into AI systems that we like to say have very high IQ, but absolutely no EQ. The applications of this range from media and advertising to incorporating emotion sensing and emotion analytics into healthcare and education and automotive. There's a wide range of areas where we can activate this emotional intelligence in AI.
Yeah, so we were talking yesterday. It's quite interesting in the early testing that I mentioned that we were doing in AI and sort of AI bots within messaging. We actually did a pilot for Sony Pictures where we turned the main character in the Goosebumps movie Slappy into an AI agent, and consumers and fans could basically engage with Slappy in Messenger. And we found that the emotional connection to be absolutely massive and quite astounding at times. In one case, someone asked Slappy to wish them luck in a chemo appointment. And so we were talking.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So okay, so that's without, Slappy has a personality, and so people want to engage with that personality. And of course, brands, that's the kind of emotional engagement that brands seek to have with their consumers. But what do you think in terms of, we were starting to feel like there was a lot of responsibility that brands are now taking on. Great, we managed to strike up an emotional connection, but do we really want that responsibility of, people kind of really relying on brand personas like that? Do you have any thoughts on?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously emotions are very personal to people, and as you said, if we start building these very emotionally engaging experiences that can respond to your emotional state in real time. So what we do is we provide people with the ability to incorporate technology that can sense your emotional state through your face and also through your voice. And what this means is that you can craft the experience to really strengthen this emotional connection. And we talk a lot about what kind of responsibility does that place on the designer of the experience? How do you incorporate empathy into that AI, into this AI system? You could imagine, personal assistants like Siri or, Amazon's Alexa or Cortana, like a lot of these, or even social robots that are going to be in our homes. There is a responsibility to build empathy and also rapport and trust through the kinds of technologies that we build. And I think there needs to be more dialogue around, what are the lines and what are the kind of guidelines in designing these types of systems.
Yeah. So it sounds like, implicitly from what you were saying, that humans will have quite a big role in defining what commercial AI ends up being and how it evolves. So Babak, have you got some thoughts on specifically what the skill sets and what the roles of those people, those real people, will be?
Well, the most popular job these days is data science. And good data scientists are hard to come by. Absolutely, the fact is that I don't really distinguish between AI and technology when it comes to the human's role. We're always kind of elevating our own role as we have our tools essentially doing more and more of what we either can't do or is very difficult for us to do. So I think AI falls in the same category as that.
Okay, nice. So I read some stuff that you wrote a little while ago in Forbes about, and not specific to AI, but the importance of hiring for diversity. And to what extent is that an important thing as we head to a world of greater and greater commercial AI?
I hope we're headed to a world of greater and greater commercial AI. So stepping back to Google for a second, there were, obviously Google was famous for being completely automated and, et cetera. But there actually were a group of people who were called quality raters. And what they did is they would look at result sets and try to do a various set of measures. Happiness at 3 was the likelihood you'd get the right answer at 3, happiness at 7, et cetera. And we'd compare our results to other people. It was a way of understanding how well we were doing. And that was an input to the training. So even though we were an automated delivery shop and a large automated training shop, there's still people. And I think the last 30 years of AI have, I think, demonstrated pretty compelling that the machines are not actually going to go do things on their own without a bunch of help for a long time. So then that begs the question that you asked. I think, well, what does that help have to look like? We believe, as a matter of sort of not, a matter of faith, not just about AI, that you get better answers to the extent you get different kinds of people attacking the same way, the same problem, because they'll attack it all in their own way. You have to build some infrastructure for that to be true. You have to let people be safe. You have to let people be honest. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you have to build. It's not enough to just drop people in a room. But part of the reason that we've gotten to unusually good results in fintech is because although I have a data science team, I think only one of them has a degree in data science. Right? I've got psychology people. You've got computer science, you've got mathematicians, got a couple of computational geneticists. I mean, and they all show up with different mathematics and different view of the world and different questions to ask. And I think as a result, our solutions are far more robust. And that robustness is what has historically been lacking in traditional AI, which was needle-thin quality, but outside that needle, you got unexplicable results. And I think that's the breakthrough that we in AI have had in the last 5 to 10 years.
So kind of related to that, do you think that as we kind of move into this world of more commercial AI, is it going to be a case of AI-assisted humans, human-assisted AI? Like, what kind of combination do you see panning out, Rana?
So first of all, I'll just say I don't see it as human versus machine. I think there is a partnership.
Yeah.
Certainly in our work where we're training algorithms to read people's emotional states, it's definitely a combination of human machine working together. We often use the algorithms and the deep learning networks to bootstrap some of the emotions that we're looking for, and then we use expert human coders to give feedback to the machine, and it's a loop.
Yeah.
And I think you can project that into the future. I think we're going to see more of that partnership. So it's a lot of augmenting human abilities.
Yeah.
Another example is we do a lot of work with autism, with individuals on the autism spectrum. And you can, and a lot of these people have trouble reading other people's social cues. So you could imagine like a Google Glass that can give real-time feedback to these individuals, and it really augments their social and emotional capabilities. So we see it as more of an augmentation and a partnership.
It's interesting. So there's a lot of AI can be applied commercially to do good. But there does feel like there's some kind of like conflict in the words, something potentially slightly sinister when you think about commercial AI, especially when we're talking about people's emotions and we're talking about using AI to generate more empathy. But ultimately, it is for commercial gain. So how do those two things kind of sit together? Anybody? Babak?
Yeah, I mean, again, replace AI with technology in that question. Why not use technology for commercial gain? I mean, it's capitalism. And oftentimes, we extend ourselves using AI. I mean, in our e-commerce application, for example, we tried using human-generated tags for what we were trying to sell in the UI, and they weren't as good as the AI discovered tags that distinguish between the merchandise. And simply because it seems like, for example, deep learning does mimic the way we see things and we observe the world, and so it's a better extension than us semantically going and tagging these things. So we had a little discussion with Doug with Douglas in the backstage about that. That doesn't mean that semantics and human-generated terminology and morphology is not useful, but in some cases, our AI can predict our preferences better than ourselves, even, and it's surprising in a delightful way.
Yeah, so I tried their product, and it was I was looking for a boot, and it was a great user experience, and it's more efficient, and I was able to converge on something that I really like in a shorter period of time.
Yep.
So I think you're providing a more engaging user experience, and you're helping people be more productive. So I think there is a way to be helpful with a commercial AI system.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is a great question, and obviously there's a lot of historical context, right? So the notion that you can separate AI from technology, let's go back to the simple things, go back to the Industrial Revolution. We all think about the Jacquard loom as being the important technology automation thing that drove the Industrial Revolution, but the Luddites were not excited by the Jacquard loom. The Luddites were excited by the fact that there was a loom. So it's really easy for us, because of how we view the world, to see the AI, the mathematics, as the lever that matters, when in fact it is just the fact that change causes disruption. And you kind of can't argue anything else. Sometimes the change causes good disruption. So for example, there's probably no one in this room who drives a car that does not have anti-lock brakes. And yet, in the early 80s to late 80s, there was a lot of movement to ban anti-lock brakes because they got you farther away from the road as the driver. Obviously, that's was wrong-headed, and that's an example of AI that has saved millions of lives, and was unpopular. I think so. There's 100 examples, I think, of what all of us have talked about, where AI clearly makes your life better. But it is incumbent on us, it's incumbent on all of you in the audience to think through the fact that change always hurts someone. And what do we as a society And what do we as people who are making healthy profits off of AI owe to the world to help those people who have been displaced by the technology that we build and sell? And I think that's a question that we don't tend to ask very often because it's extraordinarily uncomfortable. But that doesn't make it wrong.
So to what extent do you think that we need to be transparent about when AI is in play? I'll start off with an example which I thought was really interesting where so a company, a startup that we work with, basically turned kind of celebrities into AI bots and did an experiment and then
How did they tell the
revealed.
difference?
What's that?
How did they tell the difference?
Well, exactly. So the consumer didn't know that it was an AI bot and then was told it was one and wasn't particularly surprised. So there isn't much difference on the answer to your question. But the thing that was interesting about that is they were actually relieved to discover that it was a bot, an AI bot, as opposed to the real celebrity. And this kind of like goes back to kind of people, how comfortable people are talking to machines, in the sense of if you think about people typing out a search query in Google, people are prepared to ask Google things that they would never ask a real person. So I just wonder how you guys think that will play out in terms of these kind of AI-driven personas, and how maybe we should be as transparent as possible because people will be more forthcoming, and that will be a more honest relationship. I'd love to get.
So I think there's a huge opportunity to leverage the way people just confide in technology. We've seen examples where, with avatar nurses and clinicians, avatar clinicians, people are more forthcoming about, disclosing that they have depression or that they're suicidal in a way that they would not do with friends and family or their doctors. So I think they're, again, it's a two-sided, it's a two-sided kind of whatever. It's tricky, right? Because now this avatar may know that you have depression. And does it disclose this to your doctor? Does it tell your mom? Does it tell your partner? So there's definitely a lot of ethical questions around this, but the opportunity to leverage the fact that a lot of people are, that are married to their devices and are intimate with their devices in a way that can really be helpful.
I would argue that the presence of the persona itself does motivate users to use the system more. That's the case with Siri as well, even though the persona of Siri is really not the AI. It's a lot of like canned messages, meaning of life or tell me a joke. But that's what makes it delightful and pleasant. People know that Siri is not a person, but they forget. And I think it's critical and important.
In the case of Slappy, I was about to end. Actually, I'm not going to tell you about that. But do join our roundtable discussion at 3 p.m. if you would like to continue talking about this and ask any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.